This is the new Mercedes-Benz E-Class, and it has only one thing that it needs to do, and that is be a better E-Class. But before I dive into that, I'm going to jump into the back and tell you about something very stupid that happened to me this morning. Subscribe to the Evo India channel. So yesterday was the launch of this new E-Class in Mumbai. Went on till very late. The Mercedes guys know how to throw a great party. I think I went to sleep at 2 o'clock, woke up at 4 o'clock, and 5 in the morning jumped into the backseat to be driven to our shoot location. And I completely passed out. I don't know what location the driver put in the maps. And instead of coming to this location, we ended up in the heart of Pune city. It took 3 hours more to get to our shoot location. All full chaos. Luckily, the weather's nice. It hasn't started raining. The sun is not too hot. So the shoot can still happen. But this has never happened to me. I've never slept like a baby in the backseat of any car. In the E-Class, I slept like a log. Put my seatbelt on in Bombay, woke up in Pune 3.5 hours later. And that just tells you how comfortable the back seat of the E-Class is, how comfortable the suspension is, how the sound insulation is. The entire refinement of this package is extraordinarily good. Can put even somebody like me who gets very antsy when somebody else is driving me, can put me absolutely to sleep. Of course, I didn't sleep also the previous night, but that's a different matter. That gives it a full 5 stars in terms of ride comfort. Then there's the equipment out here. So I got electric sun blinds. I have a manual sun blind for that quarter glass over here, which is a bit of a pain to reach out to. But that's the only manual thing that I have to do. I've got an electric sunroof cover. I also have electric rear blind cover. I've got these nice soft cushions. The seat back angle, it adjusts from 26 to a nice put you to sleep 36 degrees. The under thigh support, that extends by 40 millimeters. Again, a nice way to put you to sleep. If you don't have somebody sitting in front of you, you can adjust the front co-passenger seat all the way in front. Get more and more and more legroom. And you can really stretch out and relax in the back of the E-Class. This is like your own personal cocoon. It is a very, very nice place to be driven around in. You have a wireless charger, plus if that's not fast enough, you have 2 USB-C chargers under the armrest. The seats are really comfortable. Did I mention the soft pillows? I think I did. I should mention it again because this is another thing that puts you to sleep. You got plenty of vents. You got your own aircon zone. It has got some fancy digital vents. I'll talk about that when I jump into the front seat. But you can adjust it manually as well. And this is what the E-Class is all about. In terms of music, you get a Burmester sound system, which sounds really good. But there is one downside, and that is the 4D sound. It only has exciters in the front seats, not in the rear seats. So if you're sitting at the back, you want to enjoy music, you won't get the full 4D effect. For that, you have to be driving or sitting on the front seat. It also has a camera by which you can take selfies, you can answer Zoom calls. But again, for that, you need to be sitting in the front seat because the camera is mounted on the top of the dashboard. So that's the rear seat. One drawback, doesn't have massagers and it doesn't have ventilation either. That's one thing that Mercedes should have incorporated, at least ventilation in the back seats of the E-Class. That's not there. Do the front seats have it? I think it's time now to jump into the front and find out. So I've hunted around a bit and there are no massagers and there is no seat ventilation either for the front seats. But the front seat guys now get these soft cushions for the headrest, which is an improvement over the past. Also, another big improvement over the earlier E-Class, and this is something that has been rolled out across the Mercedes-Benz range, which is made in India, is that now when you switch off ADAS, it stays off. Unlike in the past where every time you switched off the car, you started it again and the ADAS would default to on and you had to remember first thing in the morning to switch that off. Now you switch it off, it stays off, and that is a good thing because on these kind of roads, okay, it is good to have ADAS. But in the city with our chaotic traffic conditions, ADAS just brakes unnecessarily and it is an absolute headache. Now this E-Class is not a facelift, it is a whole new generation, and with every new generation you get more digital acreage. So you have a freestanding digital cluster, you have your 14.4-inch infotainment screen and another 12.3-inch screen for the passenger. This is not the hyper screen because this is not arranged in one single slab, it is in fact in two pieces. So Mercedes is calling this the super screen, but I think this is more than enough of digital acreage out here. Along with the new screens, you also get a new MBUX operating system, which is kind of easier to operate compared to the past. And because the aircon controls are also on the screen, you have this fixed panel over here. It's a touch panel, but you can directly go to the temperature, directly go to the blower setting. You still have to take your eyes off the road to access that, but it's kind of better than what it was in the past. Okay, bad patch of road, perfect time to dive into the ride comfort, which remains extremely good. Now this is running on 18-inch wheels, unlike its main rival, the 5 Series, which has downsized to 17-inch wheels with high-profile tires. This has a acceptable profile, not too high on 18-inch wheels. It fills up the wheel arch gaps nicely. There is still some gap because this has obviously been lifted for India, which is a good thing because even though this has a long wheelbase, 15 mm more than in the past, it still doesn't touch over speed breakers, which I think is a huge priority for a car that has to be used in our Indian conditions. So the tires and of course the suspension setup, this has got selective dampers, basically frequency selective dampers. So as you go faster, it firms up. As you go slower, it becomes softer for better bump absorption. And over these kind of roads, it really is extremely comfortable. On the expressway, while I was being driven from Bombay to Pune, I slept like a baby because it corsets you, it pampers you, it really holds you like a mother's embrace. This is extremely comfortable. With one caveat, the 5 Series with those huge profile tires, it actually delivers better low speed ride than the E-Class. To find out for sure, we will obviously do a back-to-back comparison between the two. But the 5 Series, I think, outright low speed ride compliance is actually maybe half a step better than the E-Class. Honestly, what is the world coming to? The 5 was always about sportiness, the E was always about comfort, and now the 5 is doing E-Class maybe in some respects slightly better than E-Class ride comfort. So then which E-Class do you pick? The Mercedes E-Class or the BMW E-Class? That comparison test is going to be a really difficult one. The E-Class though is not trying to be anything other than an E-Class. Unlike the 5, which is trying to be like an E, the E is being an E. And by that I mean this focuses on comfort. It is not trying to be a sporty car. It has this dynamic mode. You can stick it into sport mode, but I don't see why you would want to drive it like that. The E450, sure, but this E200 or the E220 diesel, why would you want to put it into sport mode? What it does in sport mode is that it holds on to a gear longer, it has a more aggressive map for the powertrain, the dampers don't adjust, so the dampers remain the same, and the steering gets a little heavier, which really doesn't suit the character of the E-Class because this is all about comfort. This does comfort really well. I don't mean that the handling is horrible. I don't mean that at all. This is a competent car to drive up in the hills, but it's not a car that you will pick up in the morning to come and drive in the hills. You have good power, it has a nice turn of speed, it can pull well. This 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine, it makes 201 bhp, 320 Newton meters of torque. It also has that 48-volt mild hybrid system, So when you step on it, you get a boost of around 20 horsepower more. So it's quick enough. Honestly speaking, it is plenty quick for this kind of application. And then there's the refinement, the silence, the way it isolates you from everything else. But when you go faster, okay, one thing is there that the engine note does sound a little sportier, so that's a nice thing. But you also feel the length and the size of this car. This does not mask its considerable length, or considerable girth, I should say. So over these long wave undulations, you do get that floaty sensation. The body does move around a fair bit on its suspension. It feels like a luxury limo. It doesn't feel like a sporty car. It's not trying to be sporty, neither does it feel like a sporty car. Through a few corners, it will squeal its tires. You can feel a fair bit of body roll. You can use the paddle shifters to keep it in the meat of its torque curve. But it doesn't make light work of corners. It does feel its size. This does not get rear wheel steer, for instance. Mercedes is not wasting money on that because they know that the backseat passengers want to be pampered. So instead of rear wheel steer, you have the 4D sound system, 17 speakers, 730 watts. The front seats have the exciters for that 4D sound effect. So all that razzmatazz you get. And this is what the customer really wants, doesn't he? Or she. Mercedes definitely know their customer. The steering is good. Mercedes have been doing really nice steering, surprisingly good steering. And especially for a comfort and luxury oriented car, the steering is very nice. Precise, direct, enthusiastic and quick. But there's a lot of body roll. So the best way is to just drop it down by 2/10, drive it at 8/10, and at 8/10 this is excellent. This is a great way to munch miles. This does everything that an E-Class is supposed to do and then some. Not corners, but comfort, luxury, pampering, isolation, putting backseat passengers to sleep. This is a rock star at it, an absolute rock star. Mercedes is calling the suspension comfort suspension, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It does comfort. These are selective dampers, frequency selective damping. So it's supposed to firm up at speed, slacken at low speed to give you better low speed ride comfort. And the low speed ride is good. In terms of safety, every new Mercedes always raises the bar on safety. Now, all the cars have got 5-star Euro NCAP ratings, not Bharat NCAP, but Euro NCAP ratings. This is made in India. This is the first long wheelbase right-hand drive E-Class to be made of this generation. So it was made in India, air freighted to Germany, where they crash tested it at Mercedes' German facilities, and then they got their internal certification, and that's how this could come to market. In fact, the Mercedes-Benz India production guys really accelerated their go-to market, sending the cars by air freight to Germany, getting all the homologation done in time. Otherwise, this wouldn't have come before December. But Mercedes knows that the E-Class is their bread, butter and jam. And the sooner they have it in the market, the better it is for them to retain their leadership position and also to grow overall luxury car sales. And if you looked at their recent numbers, their Q3 numbers, again, another record quarter. 5,777 cars and SUVs, and the proportion of EVs in their overall sales is growing. Despite all the negativity around EVs, the proportion of EVs in overall volume is going up. So that's also a good sign. The E220 diesel, that makes 194 bhp and 440 newton meters of torque. So obviously in terms of outright acceleration, the E200 petrol will out-accelerate the diesel, but the additional torque of the diesel, that would just suit this laid-back character of the E-Class in my opinion. Of course, we will be testing that, and what I'm really looking forward to testing is the E450 with that straight 6 turbo petrol engine, 0 to 100 in 4.5 seconds, sports car territory in a long wheelbase E-Class. Crazy. And that's also assembled in India. That's not a CBO, it is made here in India. The E-Class has always been about one thing, and that is pampering the back seat passenger. And this new E does that just that one step better than the outgoing E-Class without asking for too much more money. Now, every generational jump has commanded a huge jump in prices, but Mercedes has held on to the prices. In fact, this new E is around 2 lakh rupees more than the outgoing E, which is phenomenal value for money. The E200, which we've tested right now, deliveries of that have already started. This is priced at 78.5 lakh rupees. By Diwali, you'll be able to get the E450, which gets the turbo petrol straight 6 that does 0 to 100 in 4.5 seconds. 4.5 seconds. That used to be sports car territory, and now you get that kind of performance in a long wheelbase E-Class. Mercedes really have got all their bases covered. They've got the pricing right, they've got the equipment right, and they're offering the Indian E-Class buyer exactly what he or she wants. And that really hits the nail on its head. I have no doubt the E-Class will continue to remain the bestseller in this segment. But there is no better way to prove that for sure than to bring it back to back with the new long wheelbase 5 Series. Can the E-Class stay ahead of the 5? That's the next video on the Evo India channel, so stay tuned.